Now here's another program that I like to use a lot, and this is called World Machine. Now World Machine is basically a height field generator. So if you use displacement maps, you know that basically you take a black and white image and you put that on some form of geometry and you can add a displacement to the shader and it'll give detail to the element. This is what ZBrush is doing a lot when you're working within it with the black and white images with alphas. So World Machine is a really simple but great program where you're basically using fractals um, and uh, and operations. And that's kind of exactly under the hood what Voo is doing. It's doing various filters and fractals to create its stuff. So I just opened up World Machine and basically you come in with a project already set up, and it's nice because it kind of explains to you in a simple form what it does. So right here you basically have a terrain creation. You put a generator here. So this is a generator generating an advanced Perlin noise. You have a filter to modify it, and then you have some form of an output to get your creations out of World Machine. Now what you can see here is there's a dialog box in the top left that kind of gives you an approximation of what you're looking at, right? And then if I click on the next one, you see that image change. And then the last one, you don't see anything because basically this is the output, which is going to make a height field right now. See height output. You can see all the nodes down here also in this toggle view, kind of like your outliner. And then you've got a bunch of buttons on the top, and then you got a lower rung of buttons as well. So before we get into these, I want to deal with why this is yellow. So in World Machine, you have to render your images to see a better approximation. So if I click the green button, it's going to render, and you saw a little pop-up that came through quick. All my nodes are green now, so it's been rendered. So if we look over here, I can see that, I can see that, I can see that. It doesn't look much different. But if you zoom into your piece, you can look through different viewports in here. And you can see right here, right now F5 device view is what we're looking through. Layout view is F6, so this is your terrain from above. And what's great is this is the terrain that we were looking at. If you look in here, you see the resolution update once you zoom in. But if you look over here, this is what we're looking at. You can see that same little isthmus over here and this little crook in the back. That's the size of our area that we're working right now. And in World Machine, they call that an extent. So that's the size of your square, basically. And we're looking straight down. Now over here, you can move the light. So you can just kind of left click and drag the light so you get some kind of lighting information as you're going across the form. You can use that as much as you want or as little. I usually just like to have something generic. And then here you have like more of a God view. Here you've got basically the 3D view. This is the one I use the most. So you can right click, zoom in and out. You can left click, twirl and tumble. And then what I usually do, we use the arrow keys to step up and down and then left and right because it's a little weird to orient on a piece. So now you can step back, rotate with the left view because you can't go up. You can't, do that. But if you zoom out and then go up, now you got a higher elevation to your piece. So that's this. And what I usually do is under views, down here on the bottom, there's an additional view window. I have that off screen right now because I have dual monitors. Now you can see that. And what I'll do is I'll go back to this, icon view, right? And then now you can kind of position that over to the side and try to, get both real estates. And if you click on here and you do the same thing in this window, select a view, you'll see what's going on here. So now you can double click your node and see it over here. So the advanced Perlin has all these different parameters, and basically you can, slide through and you'll get like an update, and you're like, okay, maybe somewhere in between that, ridged, billowy, whatever you want. There's a lot of just sliders that you just mess with. So it's all about just messing around with this. Click OK. Everything turns yellow again. Now if you have this selected and you click the yellow button, the only thing that renders is the button that you have selected and anything downstream to it to the left, basically. So if I click on the height field and see the terrace is only yellow, if I click yellow, it renders everything here and to the left. So it's just a little bit if you don't want to render and you have a really big operator in here to kind of keep it manageable. And then now down here, you can see what this Perlin to this terrace is giving us. And it's been rendered, so you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Now you can see a lot of stepping, and that's what the terrace is doing. It's adding steps as we go through the object. And what's great is you basically can keep adding all these different kind of filters. And you can move these around. The windows themselves you can delete or move, so it moves the whole node. And then, just click and try different things. So under generators, you can import a file import. You can create a gradient, so you have a gradient here. You can change the direction, you can change the width, tiling, linear, whatever you want, stuff like that. Click OK. And then you have these combiners, which basically right here you can do a combiner, and you're saying basically I want to take this input, go over to here, take this input, go over to here, and then combine. So now if I render, I'm only rendering this. I unclick the height field. We don't need that right now. And then here you can basically see what is that giving us, and this gradient gave you that, this terrace gave us this, and now they're combining together to give you this. And the combiner basically means you can go more towards the one or the other or in the middle. Right now the method is average. You can add, you can subtract, multiply, you can do any kind of operations, and all it is just go there, click, render, and then you get a new render of it. So the other thing in here is the parameters. So right here, world extents and resolution. Here's that region that we said that we saw in the layout view, and it's an 8 by 8 kilometers. So this is 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. And then you have this +1 resolution. I usually turn this off to deal with our usual 512, 10, 24. And depending on your computer, when you build, you can raise this all the way up, but it's going to take more memory. So sometimes what you want to do is render right around 1024. And I'll usually turn on conserve memory if I'm using a large file, like a lot of different operators. Click OK. And now when this renders, it's going to give you more resolution. And I know it's a little hard to see here, but you're rendering at a higher resolution so that when you output, you'll have a higher resolution. So usually I'll test in 1024 to 2048, 1K by 2K, and then usually I'll export a 2K to 4K map out of here. And then you can also, so right here you can export, if you hook this up, you'll be able to export out a height field. Before we do that, I want you to try this. So there's natural, and you have this erosion. You have coast erosion, regular erosion, river, all kinds of different types of erosion. So right here, this is the power of World Machine, is its erosion node. So we're going to re-render everything. And if we go from here, you see that, the terracing, right? That didn't look so great. And if you go here, you've eroded what's going on in that scene. And if you go into your erosion, you have standard erosion, channeled, filter, simple, inverse. Rock hardness is how hard the rocks will stay. The duration of the erosion, how much sediment is going to flow through the channels. And then geological time enhancement, if you click this, you're now actually adding eons to the erosion, and then you can slide the erosion power and really let it eat through the object. Now if we render all of this, it takes a little longer when you're doing the erosion, that's why you got to see it. And you can see it didn't take much long, it's 4.7 minutes, but it does chug through it. So once you get the green bar and says it's successful, click OK. And then now if you look at this, you get a much different erosion to the surface. So it's pretty cool. So I would mess with it. And I really, there's a lot of great things you can get out of World Machine and add to your scenes and mix match between working in Vue, exporting out an object, the terrain, the mountain terrains, and then add a World Machine fractal to it where you erode, and then bring it back into Vue and render it, or bring it into Maya, ZBrush, anything. It's really up to what tools you like to use. But anyway, there's these output nodes. So here's the height field output, bitmap output. There's a mesh output, so you can literally just export out a mesh. So now we're exporting out a height field, and now you're going to build a mesh. So now you can see that mesh got built. Double click and then change it to what you want. You can select quads. Now you got nice quads. And then export out as an OBJ. That's kind of a soup to nuts version of World Machine.